I've always thought that the holidays were a time for family, fun, and most of all, a little magic. That's what I used to believe anyway, before I saw him. I'll never forget the Christmas of 2006, the one that turned my entire world upside down. Before that night, I'd always assumed my grandma's stories about strange creatures and dark forces were just her way of keeping me entertained. My family was poor, struggling to get by, and Strathmore wasn't exactly a hub of excitement. The summers were blistering hot, the sun beating down, making the whole suburb feel like an oven. There was nothing for a young kid like me to look forward to except Christmas. It was a brief flicker of joy in an otherwise monotonous existence. And, like any other kid, I had my wish list, but that year, all I wanted was a PS3. It wasn't just about the games, it was about escaping. I wanted to escape from the heat, the loneliness, and the constant reminder that we didn't have much. I was 13. I should have been excited about growing up, about new experiences, but I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. And then, a week before Christmas, everything changed. My birthday is December 12th, a day that was always overshadowed by the holiday rush. But that year my parents tried to make it special. We had pizza, we had Mortal Kombat, things that seemed to matter more in a world where everything felt so heavy. My brother Michael was there too. He was older, rebellious, always lost in his music. Rock and roll was his escape. Nirvana, Judas Priest, anything loud. But for all his tough talk and wild attitude, Michael was a soft-hearted guy, always looking out for me even if he pretended not to care. But that was before everything changed. That was before the basement. The night of December 12th, I came home from the final day of the school year to find Michael dead. The details aren't important, not really, but what matters is that Michael, my big brother, was gone. The way his body looked on the floor of the basement, cold, lifeless, and covered in gory scratches from something I couldn't even begin to understand. The police didn't have any answers. They tried to claim it was a freak accident, but they couldn't explain the deep gouges that marred his body. The rumour mill started almost immediately. Some of the older kids at school claimed that Krampus had come for him. Others said it was something much worse, but none of that mattered to me. I couldn't even process what had happened. Michael was just gone. Christmas was a blur that year. I didn't want to go out with my friends. I didn't want to celebrate anything. The house felt empty. The warmth of the season seemed so far away. Even my dad, who could barely scrape together the money for presents, tried to cheer me up by getting me that PS3. He couldn't afford it, trust me, but somehow he got it anyway. And for a few hours, I forgot. I forgot everything. I stayed up late on Christmas Eve, playing some Marvel game. My dad let me play the PS3 early. It was the first time in, a fortnight where I kind of felt normal. That's when the lights went out. I knew exactly where the fuse box was. It was in the basement. I should have been scared. I should have been. But there I was, heading down the creaky stairs, heart pounding, knowing I had to fix it. It was just flicking a switch anyway. I wasn't prepared for what awaited me. As I pushed open the basement door, I saw him, sitting there on an old mattress my parents used to sleep on. He looked like Santa Claus. But this wasn't the Santa I'd known from the stories, no. This man was wrong. His clothes were reddy brown, his face pale and sickly, stared at me with eyes that glowed red. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Santa? My voice barely broke through the air that suddenly seemed cold. He turned toward me slowly, grinning. His teeth were crooked and yellow. "Hello, Tommy," he rasped, his voice cold and sharp. "I hope you enjoyed your gift." My heart sank into my stomach. The PlayStation. It was him. That's when it all hit me. I remembered writing the letter to Santa, the joke I'd made. I wrote, "I'll trade you Michael for a PS3. It was a joke. It was a stupid, innocent joke made by an 11-year-old. But Santa hadn't laughed. "Your PlayStation 3, he continued. "I read your letter. Since we've been neighbours for so long, I couldn't help but honour your request." I stood there, frozen, trying to process the nightmare unfolding in front of me. But the pieces began to click together. The gift, the price. I didn't mean it. I tried to speak, but the words just wouldn't come. Santa's grin widened, and his voice turned colder. "Oh, you got exactly what you wanted. Don't worry, Tommy. You won't share the same fate as poor Michael. But remember, this is on you. You asked for it." I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I could only watch as he stood up, his figure towering over me, his head brushing the ceiling of the basement. He moved aside an old bookshelf and slept through a hidden passage. As he disappeared into the darkness, I heard the unmistakable sound of his voice, echoing with a final cruel laugh. "Ho, ho, ho." I stayed there, alone in the dark, too afraid to move, too scared to even breathe. When I finally stumbled upstairs, I locked the door behind me, but I knew what I'd seen. I waited 2 years to tell my parents about that night. I was afraid that they wouldn't believe me. And of course they didn't. Nobody did. Why would you? But I know what I saw. And sometimes when the lights flicker, I swear I can hear that laugh, echoing up from the basement. That's how I learnt the truth. And like I said, you don't have to believe me. Santa doesn't live in the North Pole. He lives in my frickin' basement.